I never imagined I'd become a landowner, much less the owner of 200 acres. But one night, while mindlessly scrolling through online auctions, I found a listing that stopped me cold. 200 acres of remote, untouched wilderness in the middle of nowhere. The starting bid? Just $1,000. My pulse quickened. I had always dreamed of escaping the noise of everyday life, of having my own private stretch of nature. Acting on impulse, I placed a bid. A few days later, an email landed in my inbox. Congratulations, you won. Final price, $2,000. I read it twice to be sure. $2,000 for 200 acres, $10 an acre. It felt unreal. Instantly, my mind filled with plans. A small off-grid cabin, a vegetable garden, maybe even a pond. This land would become my refuge. The first time I visited the property is burned into my memory. After hours on winding country roads, I finally reached the coordinates. The reality was even better than the photos. Rolling hills stretched in every direction. Thick forest blanketed the landscape, and a small creek cut gently through the terrain. It was everything I had hoped for. I spent the entire day exploring, wandering through trees and across open clearings, feeling a calm I hadn't experienced in years. As sunset painted the sky, I headed back toward my car, already planning my return. That's when I noticed a dusty pickup parked near the entrance. Strange, since I hadn't seen another soul all day. A man and woman stepped out, both wearing stern expressions as they approached. The man introduced himself as Earl and wasted no time. "You must be the new owner," he said flatly. "I'm Earl. This is my wife Brenda. We live down the road." I smiled and offered a handshake, but he ignored it. Brenda spoke next, her tone sharp. "We've been keeping an eye on this land for years. We have certain standards around here. We like things orderly. You could say we're the unofficial welcoming committee." She paused. "And the rules committee." I blinked in disbelief. Rules? Out here? This was my land. Still, I tried to remain polite. "Nice to meet you," I said. "I'm excited to be here." Earl grunted. "We'll see how excited you are once you get our community guidelines." A few days later, I discovered a laminated sheet taped to the gate I had just installed. It was their so-called list of guidelines. As I read it, my jaw tightened. No structures without prior approval. Grass must remain under 6 inches. Any tree removed must be replaced with 2 approved saplings. And the best part, a $100 monthly community upkeep fee, payable to them. For what? Mowing a strip of roadside grass that wasn't even on my property. They were acting like my 200 acres were part of some suburban HOA nightmare. I crushed the paper in my fist and tossed it into my truck. There was no chance I'd comply. This wasn't their kingdom. The following weekend, I returned with lumber to build a simple tool shed. I had barely unloaded the first board when Earl's truck came barreling down the dirt path. He slammed on the brakes, dust swirling everywhere. "What do you think you're doing?" he shouted, pointing at the wood. "Did you get approval for that structure?" I stared at him. "Approval? From you? It's my property." His face turned red. "It's in the guidelines. Violate them and you're fined. $200 for unauthorized construction." I couldn't help but laugh. "You can't fine me. You have no authority. There's no HOA here." Brenda climbed out of the truck, furious. "We are the authority," she snapped. "We keep this place respectable." I knew ignoring them wouldn't solve anything. So I drove to the county clerk's office and pulled every record related to my land and the surrounding parcels. The truth was crystal clear. There was no homeowners association, no covenants, no restrictions, nothing. Earl and Brenda had invented the entire thing. Their land was just another private parcel like mine. They had zero legal standing. Armed with documentation, I felt empowered. The next time Earl showed up, waving another fabricated fine, I was ready. "Your first violation," he announced smugly. $200 due in 30 days. I calmly took the paper from his hand and held up my county records. "Earl, I checked with the county. There's no HOA. These fines mean nothing. You have no legal authority over me or anyone else." I watched the color drain from his face. He muttered something about tradition, and maintaining standards, but his confidence evaporated. Brenda tried to argue, but I cut her off. This ends now. Do not step onto my property again. If you do, I'll call the sheriff for trespassing. They stood there in stunned silence before climbing back into their truck and driving away. A deep stillness settled over the land afterward, but this time it felt different, lighter, real. I looked at the half-built shed, the lumber stacked neatly, the endless forest stretching beyond. It was all mine, truly mine. The peace that washed over me was overwhelming. This was about more than a shed. It was about protecting my dream. I had bought this land for freedom, and I wasn't going to let anyone bully me out of it. The weeks that followed were pure bliss. I finished the shed, cleared space for a small garden, and spent long hours soaking in the solitude. Earl and Brendan never returned. I later heard they had tried their fake HOA routine on others before, sometimes successfully, but confronting them with official records had ended their little scheme. Sometimes all it takes is research and the courage to stand your ground. My 200-acre paradise cost $2,000, but the lesson was invaluable. If something matters to you, defend it. I hope my story reminds you to do the same.